Hi, this is Jason Anderson, founder of Pre-Veteran, and welcome back to the Pre-Veteran YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about welcome blog number 3 in the existing transition program and why that's the old paradigm. Again, these videos are in conjunction with what the blogs we have posted to our website and are intended to give you a bit more color and context to those blogs. Similar to the other videos, the context for today is during my 20-year career, 10 of those years I was an active flying C-130E and H pilot. My first base was Ramstein Air Base, Germany, then Little Rock Air Force Base, Arkansas, and then finally Komaki Air Base, Japan. Here's some pictures from each of those experiences. Those experiences left an indelible mark on me and how I think through things. And oftentimes I'll use those piloting experiences to reflect on other things that seem to be analogous to that. And by going through this analogous sort of flight profile, you're going to be able to see why the existing transition assistance program is so challenged, because it happens in career descent when you're the busiest and the most challenged from a timeline standpoint. To better explain this phenomenon, we're going to enlist one of our models we've created for you to help you think through your transition, and it's called the flight profile model. And as you can see, there's 3 different lines within the flight profile model. The first and top one is the standard flight profile, and we're going to use that as a baseline for this discussion. After that, we're going to go through the transition GPS, which is the red line, and then finally through the pre-veteran, which is in the blue. And from that baseline, I hope you'll be able to understand why the existing transition program is so challenged, and then why pre-veteran might be a better fit for you. So looking at the flight profile model, let's start off with the standard flight profile. As you can see, if you follow that top line all the way from left to right, there's a whole bunch of different events that take place. But what I really want to draw your attention to is the blue flag that we've labeled planning action. And as you can see, there's 2 big flags in the standard flight profile. So let me walk you through the standard flight profile from beginning to end, and this will kind of, again, provide you a baseline from which to compare the other 2. So starting off for the standard flight profile, you have to understand that each crew member is going to be fully trained in that position. And then prior to ever going to the airplane, there's the actual first planning event where the pilot, co-pilot, and perhaps the navigator are in base operations, and they kind of go over the entire mission from beginning to end. They talk about the weather, what they're doing, where they're going, how the mission is going to be executed. So that first planning action actually takes place before you get in the airplane, talk to the other crew members, and then obviously start up the engines, go take the runway, take off. So you can kind of see those other actions kind of in there as you follow the flight profile model from left to right. So again, that first planning action takes place in base operations in the mission planning phase. And then after that, they step to the airplane, the entire crew, and they do the pre-flight. Now, of course, this makes sure that the aircraft is working as intended, and that's where you do a briefing to notify the other crews that might not have been in base operations, tell them what they're going to do, what the timelines are like, and of course, what the expected responsibility is for each crew member. And then finally, obviously, you start up the engines, taxi to the runway, take off, climb out. Now the next phase is super interesting, and this is where we want to talk about the next planning event. So in aircraft flight, again, you don't have to be a pilot to understand the concepts here. Being a passenger on a plane is certainly sufficient. But in the straight and level flight, right, and this is where usually the autopilot's on and it's a relative calm in the cockpit. Toward the end of that, prior to descent, this is when the crew, all of the crew, again go through another planning action. And it's because obviously time has lapsed since the last time they did a planning action before they went to the aircraft. So in the straight and level flight, when things are relatively calm, they go through this yet again, and they check any updates to the mission will be discussed, making sure people understand their responsibilities and are ready to go. And this is significant because the next phase is descent. And descent happens when you leave your cruise altitude, This is when the pilot lowers the nose, pulls back the power, and you begin your descent. But that's not the only thing that happens. That's when things really start to get busy. And what I mean by that is the pilot is actually flying in some cases. You got the co-pilot talking on the radios, and you're making sure that the person in the back is briefing any of the passengers and making sure everything is generally ready to go. But from a practical standpoint, you can see as you get closer to the ground, things become more important that you don't screw them up. And then finally, to finish out, the airplane goes on to an approach, lands on the runway, touchdown, and then you do your final outbrief. So that as a baseline, let's kind of talk about the existing transition program and see why this might be so challenged. And the bottom line again is because it's happening in career descent. So if you follow the red line on the bottom, you can see that you're already airborne, right? And what that means is you're airborne in your career. Your career is behind you. Your military career is behind you. So from an analogy standpoint, you've actually been airborne for some time now. When you make the decision to separate or retire, then you go into career descent. And what's really interesting about that is where this planning action takes place in the existing program. This is when you attend your existing transition program workshop. Now, the real problem, what happens here is you may not be familiar with, but I want to bring up and bring to your attention is that career descent essentially means that you're 3xing your existing workload. And let me kind of walk you through why. As far as your steady state career goes, you got your normal job, you got training, potentially deployments, and then obviously outside of work, you got family obligations if you have a family. So you already have that going on right now. However, once you actually are in career descent and you've decided to separate or retire, or you actually have a date established, you're now going to be doing the next thing also, which is disentangling yourself from the military, which often includes a lot of medical and dental appointments, and then the out processing itself, which takes quite a bit of time. So that's the next thing you have to do. And then on top of that, you have to figure out who you are, what you want to do, create a resume, find a mentor, network, do informational interviews. Do you see the problem? So all those things add up to 3x the workload, and you're doing it on descent. So very similar to the flight profile model, you get really busy in descent. And then you can kind of ask yourself, what becomes the highest priority? Is it doing your job? Is it disentangling from the military? Or is it actually doing what is most important, which is positioning yourself for a successful post-military life? So now that you've seen why the existing transition assistance program is so challenged because it's in career descent, here's what we'd like to do differently with pre-veteran. And we'll go into more detail in this in the next blog and the next video. You can kind of see from our flight profile model, the middle line there in pre-veteran, what we'd essentially like to do is get you in your career straight and level flight. And this means the relative calm of your career prior to your descent. And we know that life is busy and everyone understands that. But as you're going through the straight and level flight, there's going to be the many ups and downs, but you can manage a program within that structure. It really becomes problematic when you're in descent and you've got the 3x workload that we talk about now. So for pre-veterans specifically, what we offer as part of that straight and level flight, we want to get you earlier in your career. We've talked about that in other videos. Our biggest focus on pre-veteran is your self-transformation and early alignment to the private sector. And we do that through framework, tools, and support. And again, the framework has a lot to do with the flight profile model because we want to get you earlier in your career. And as part of that framework, we provide different courses, which you'll see on our courses page, and we have other items in there that will be coming out in the future. As far as individual tools go, you have internal and external obstacles that you have to be aware of and overcome in order to be successful. We help you with that. And then obviously with support, we do that within an ecosystem of other people that want to be there who are also equally interested in self-transformation and early alignment to the private sector. So that group you're able to develop together and do it as a shared experience, what we think is great. So again, this finishes off our Welcome Blog 3. We hope you enjoyed the content. And as usual, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe to the video if you haven't, or to our YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Make sure that you're following us on our LinkedIn company page, and then let us know if you have any friends, colleagues, family that would be interested in this content. Please pass our name along to them. Thank you very much.